In today's tutorial, let's work on the baby's first cluster crochet hat. We have 4 sizes available in one pattern, and let's get started right after this. Welcome back to the Crochet Crowd as well as yarnspirations.com. I'm your host Mikey. Today we're going to work on some hats, and today we're going to be working on the one that is listed in the title of this video. This particular pattern comes in 4 different sizes, and let's review that first. We're going to have the preemie size of 3 to 4 pounds. We have the preemie size of 5 to 6 pounds. We also have newborn of 7 to 9 pounds and then up to 3 months. The project that we're doing today is listed in the title of this video. I'm going to take you through the ins and outs of this particular pattern, and then we're going to jump to the size that has been listed in the title of this video. So all 4 hat sizes are very similar in concept. The only difference is, other than they look different in sizing, is that there's a fundamental difference of rounds 3 and 4 between all of them. So a cluster is made up of 2 double crochets into the same stitch, and when we go to work on it, we're working on it like it's looking upside down, and you can see that there's 2 double crochets that make up one cluster, like so. Okay, and the next cluster just goes into a space in between. We're going to be explaining that a little bit more in a bit. So what's going to happen on rounds 3 and 4 is that 3 and 4 is increasing the number of clusters so that the hat diameter expands. So clearly when you're doing the preemie size here, and you can get up to 12 hats out of one yarn ball for the Caron Simply Soft, is that there's less clusters in the top part here so that it makes it a smaller diameter. So what's going to happen here is that we're going to take you through the ins and outs of this particular video. All of them start off the same way, rounds 1 and 2, and then this video is going to change then for rounds 3 and 4 in order to do it. Once you get the round 4 done, all of the rest of these hats turn exactly identical with just adding a cluster into each one of the spaces that is available to you, and then you just need a tape measure at the end, measure the distance that you have that's listed in the pattern, and just polish it off with a single crochet right at the very end. So this is a really kind of an interesting concept. I'm also going to explain you one more thing before we begin today's tutorial. To help me to help you in order to teach this effectively, I've created these diagrams that are just kind of made with pencil, and this, for example, is the 3 to 4 size here, and we can see that we start off identically, and I put in highlights here whenever there's an increase that go in between any of the clusters that you see. So if you notice it's sitting inside of a cluster, that's what we have. So I'm gonna provide this scan details, and this is 5 and 6 on the crochetcrowd.com underneath the particular sizing, and you can see that I've done them all in order to help me teach. But I'm going to tell you one more thing in order to really make it a lot more easier for me to teach, because I was just trying to think how not to confuse you, and it is all about the spaces and the double crochets. So let me just pull this up here. So whenever I refer to a between, it's going to be in between 2 double crochets that are together. So consider these as a cluster, like you should anyway. So whenever I say the stitch is in between, it's in between a cluster like this, and if I say it's in between a space, it's in between the space between 2 clusters. And so when we go to work on this, let me pull up the size here, and I have highlighted in pink here. So for example, what I would go here is I would say a cluster in the space because it appears in between 2, but the next one is in cluster in between, and you'll see that it's in between 2 of the double crochets, just like that. So I'm going to be saying that in this particular video in order to make it. So as I teach it, and for example, let me take up the smallest size because it's just going to be easier. When I go to start, I will say chain 3, double crochet into the same in between, and then I will say cluster in the next space, cluster in the next space, and then cluster in between, just like this. So if you could just follow it along, and we're gonna try to do it, and you'll see in the baby size that it's kind of really kind of unusual on how it's increasing, but we'll explain that when it comes to this particular size. So without further ado, let's jump to this particular tutorial and the size that we're talking about, and let's get started. In today's tutorial, we're going to work up to the 3-month size. For this particular pattern, you'll need a size G 4.5 millimeter crochet hook, also known as US size 7. Relatively easy. You're going to get 5 hats out of one ball of Caron Simply Soft if you're using today's pattern. Let's get started. So now we're going to work on the size here that goes up to 3 months, really quite easy to do. And again, it's rounds 3 and 4 that are different here. And so this is the chart, and I'll provide this chart or a diagram in the more information of this video. It will be on the crochetcrowd.com for the size of hat. So you can see rounds 3 and 4 slightly different, and rounds 3 is identical to the size that was in the newborn as well for the amount of stitch work, and then round 4 is slightly different in order to increase it so that it's even bigger. You're gonna notice that there's highlighting, and highlighting when it appears when I have put it in between any of the clusters. So each one of the clusters consists of 2 double crochets. So you can see that this is where I've done the increase. So when I'm referring to in-betweens, the stitches is in between a cluster like this, and the space, when I refer to the space, is in between 2 groups of a cluster like that. So this is how you would work this particular pattern. So let's grab up your crochet hook and your yarn, and let's get started with the slip knot, and then let's begin. So let's begin. We're going to start by chaining 3. Remember, the 1 on the hook never counts as 1. So 1, 2 and 3, and what we want to do is do 8 half double crochets in the starting chain. So come all the way back to the start, wrap the hook and going into the starting chain, and I want to put in a half double crochet, and I want to do that 8 times. So that was 1 and 2, 3, okay, and I'm leaving that straggler down in 4 and 5, 6, 7 and 8. And what I want to do is join this to the beginning single or half double crochet that we started with. So if you can count back, if you're not sure where you should join, just count back. So start from the one right underneath the hook. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. So just count back and you can figure that out. Go right into an actual stitch and just join it just like this. Let's begin round number 2. Round number 2 is very easy. We're just gonna chain up 3, 1, 2 and 3, coming to the same space that you just joined, and just do a double crochet. And you're making clusters here even though you may not identify it right away. So you're gonna chain 1 next, and then come into the next stitch and then put in 2 double crochets. So each cluster in this particular design is consisting of 2 double crochets into the same stitch. Chain 1, come into the next one, 2 double crochets. So you want to go all the way around in that same fashion, so you'll end up with 8 clusters going all the way around. Chain 1, come into the next one. The secret is to keep the same count going all the way around. All 4 of the hats start off identically with rounds 1 and 2 just being like this. It's rounds 3 and 4 that change the story for all of the hats going forward. Chain 1, okay, just continuing to go all the way around. If you're ever unsure, just count your groups of 2, and I will do that in just a moment just to verify. So I think I'm done here because the next stitch belongs to the next one. So you can just count the groups. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. That means I'm done. Chain 1 first, and then just join it to the top of the beginning chain 3 like this. And that concludes on how to do rounds 1 and 2. So here's where we are right now, and we're ready for rounds 3 and 4, and rounds 3 is identical to what was in the newborn size. You'll see that the increase is really consistent, and it's every other stitch, and I will show you a tip when we get there. And then round number 4. So what we're doing for this particular hat, we're looking for a total height of 5 inches tall in order for this design. So let's begin round number 3. So round number 3, like most of these rounds here, we have to then slip stitch to in between the next cluster like so. So just go in between, okay, do you see that? And then chain 3 and then cluster into the, or double crochet into the same spot. So here's a tip. You can either count, and I could say in between space, in between space, but here's the thing. With this particular one, all you just need to do is put a cluster in between each one of the double crochets that exist. Okay, so just right in between each one of the double crochets, put in a cluster. So it's just a really easy way of looking at it. I never knew this until I drew it out and how consistent it was like that. And so then when you look at it from that perspective, you don't have to worry about counting really. You just have to worry about putting a cluster in between each one of the double crochets. Please do that for this entire round. At the end of this round you should have a total of 16 clusters. So there'll be 32 double crochets if you're mattering that much. So just let's count the clusters. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. Once you verified that you had 16, just join it to the top of the beginning chain 3 and let's move on to round number 4. So round number 4 we're going to increase the size even more. Now in the newborn size we had a total of 19 clusters to finish off before just finalizing the rest of the body of the hat. This time it's 21, so there's an extra 2 clusters. So let's slip stitch in between the next space here, okay, and chain up 3, 1, 2, and 3, and then double crochet in the same spot. So here's what we're going to do for this one. Just follow along. We're gonna put a cluster in the next space. Okay, so do you see these are the clusters? So we're gonna go in the space and we're gonna do the next 2 spaces as well. So there'll be a total of clusters in 3 spaces. And then the next one is in between. So just here's the cluster. We're gonna go right in between it. Okay, so the next one here is the next 3 spaces will be clusters. So 1, just separate them out if you don't see it. 2, okay, here's the next space over here. 3, and then we're going to go in between. So here's the cluster, go right in between it. So for that, and then the next 3 spaces are going to be clusters. So 1, 2, and the next one is 3. Okay, the next one is in between. So here's the 2 there. Just refer to the diagram if you're confused at this point. It's really hard to be able to teach this. So there's gonna be a cluster in each one of the 3 spaces. So that was 1, 2. You'll notice that the instructions are really heavily worded to define what the spaces are and then in between 2 double crochets. So I'm trying to make it easiest to teach it to you. The next one is in between. And then the next clusters are in between the spaces. So in spaces, so 1, 2, and 3. And then if you look at the diagram, the last one is in between. So it's the last one that's available to you anyway. And so you need to have a total count of 21 before finalizing. So let's do that. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21. And let's just join it to the top of the chain 3. So now it's the biggest size that you need, and let's move along to the final rounds in order to make this hat finished. So for all remaining rounds they're all very simple. So we have to then just play in the spaces in between the clusters. So let's just slip stitch to the first space that's available to you. So I slip stitched in the first double crochet and then now into the space. So we're gonna start off by chaining a 3 and then just add another double crochet there. So just going into the spaces only, just put in 2 double crochets which equals a cluster. And you're gonna do that all the way around. Your goal is to continue to do these rounds just like I'm showing you now. You're not increasing anymore, but your hat should be a total of 5 inches tall from the top right down to where the brim starts, and then we'll begin to do that. Let me just get you to the end of this round, show you how to finish this round, and then move up to the next, and then I'll come back and do the brim after a bit. So I'm coming up all the way back around. I've done it to the last space. Just join it to the top of the beginning chain 3. So to begin all other rounds, just slip stitch again over to the next space in between clusters, chain up 3, 1, 2, 3, double crochet into the same spot, and then coming into the next space just do another cluster and continue to do that. So your goal is that you're gonna come all the way around, and let's just pull up the size. So your goal is to get 5 inches from the top of this hat to about the brim, and then we're gonna finish off to do the brim after that. So continue to work on this, and I'll see you back here when we go to begin the brim. So I'm back and I'm ready for the brim, and I can determine the brim because in the instructions it says that the hat should be about 5 inches from the top all the way to where the brim is. So let's begin to do the brim. It's just like all the rest of them for this particular pattern. We chain up 1, and it's 1 single crochet in each of the double crochets going all the way around. So please do that, and when I come back I'll show you how to finish this off and hide in your tails so you have the most perfect finishes ever. So I'm continuing all the way around, and I'm just doing a single crochet in each one of the double crochets, and at the end, which I'm about to do, slip stitch to the beginning single crochet. Let's finish off this hat, and let's just trim our yarn. It's about 1 foot long, and I'm just gonna pull the yarn through the loop like that. So now what I want to do is I want to put this straggler down into a darning needle. And this is the best way to finish it off, and you won't have any loose tails hanging out, especially if you're donating this out to somebody in need. You don't want the tails hanging out. Slide the needle into the work about 1 inch long in one direction like so, and it'll never fall out if it goes in 3 different directions. So let's just go back in the direction that we came, but in a different set of fibers. So that's for 2, and then just go back again in the other direction. That's number 3. So the hat can never stretch in 3 different directions at the same time, therefore this will never fall out. You can trim it right down to the work, turn it inside out, get that straggler that you had in the beginning, trim that right down to the bottom like so, and now your hat is now ready for the donation bin. And this is a great free pattern, and it's really quite easy to do. Hopefully you've enjoyed yourself and learning something new at the same time. So if you're ever looking for new ideas, of course we are the channel to hang out on, and it's thecrochetcrowd.com as well as Yarn Inspirations. Have a great day, and we'll see you again real soon. Bye bye.